Hi guys, my name is Artur Ziółkowski and I'm so excited to be a part of this Wrobocon conference in 2024, where I can share my knowledge around robot framework, which I gained over the years. Today, I would like to touch a difficult problem, which is creation scalable test automation framework. Kindly, I ask you to be open-minded because you will understand this presentation in different ways, depends who you are today on testing path. Before we dive into the presentation, a few words about me. I have been involved in QA automation testing since 2010. I starting from the Pythons. Uh, corporation where I worked, after a few years, decided to create new products. So I was shifted to these new products where I start working with the robot frameworks. I'm starting creation the test framework from the scratch. So I will also start working as an architect for this automation needs. Today I'm working in our clients for the Nordic banks, where I am QA lead for two different products. At home, I am fan of IoT and I'm motorcyclist. At the beginning of my presentation, I would like to find the answer to why the frameworks are not scalable and what it means in my opinion. The not scalable frameworks is framework where we as a QAs, we have a problem with the maintenance, yeah, or even we have a problem with delivering features, yeah, that you spend entire sprint to fighting with the coding, but at the end you can't deliver the test which is working, yeah. I division this problem to two different small sub problems. Like one of them is the organization level, and second is the desk level. Yeah. After that, when we find the answer, in my opinion, why frameworks are not scalable, I would like to show you scaling levels for the drivers interfaces, also the scaling on the drivers and products levels, which allow to me build different test environments in different companies, but based on the same backbones. Yeah. Like I mentioned at the beginning, it depends who you are and where you work today. If you work together with 1, 2 friends inside of small team, from the organization point of view, the main goal of your team is just deliver the feature. Yeah. But when we start talking about bigger projects, when we have 10, 20 different teams and they need to share the same environments, test framework environments itself also, they need to share the knowledge, yeah, and they need also the team can be involved in SIT testing or end-to-end testing to each other, yeah. So it's very important from the organization level that they need to share the same way of working, yeah. So these backbones, which I would like to present on this conference, allow to me build multiply very similar test framework, which was shared at the end by the 9 different products with 15 plus different QAs. Yeah? So let's talk about why the framework is not scalable. So let's start from the organization level. Like I mentioned, when you work in a small team with few friends as a testers, and you have 3 testers inside of one team, probably everything can be handled by them, yeah, without any problems. All of the features, regressions, etc., etc. So all of team needs will be covered by them, yeah. But when the organization or product or team is growing, new features is added, new developers was hired, and new QAs comes to the team, we can hit the point where the team is a little bit too big to handle the normal stuff because all of QAs deliver different codes, yeah? Because there is no any rules how they should cooperate. Of course, they share some kind of the knowledge, low-level drivers, to the open connections or log into the pages, etc., etc. But when you deep into the code, how they name it, the function, how they name it, the parameters, values, how they generated the values to check different combination is totally different, yeah, because the testers also have different knowledge. And the team is growing. So, but the rules which was used by the QAs is still the same at the beginning. And this is a point in time when the QAs and the organization needs to start thinking about a little bit different about the automation. We should raise the hand to the organization that the way of working should be a little bit changed. For sure, or I'm almost sure, it's not comes from the top. Yeah, the higher management comes to the team and said, guys, okay, we have more QAs, let's create the framework which will be can be shared by the hundreds of people. Yeah, so the organization not treat our automation as a product, and this is a problem also for the different levels of the organization: product owner, scrum master, release manager, etc. No one knows at the beginning that the automation need to be somehow handled, because from all of point of view, from them of point of view, if you deliver the release, deliver the feature, you finish the sprint, and everything is green on the Q test and Jira, from them point of view, everything's work correctly. Yeah, but you can all of these releases for you from the testers can be big fight, like a war, to achieve the green regression, etc. Because the maintenance is very hard, because you have 10 different testers and you don't have any rules cooperation how they should share the code. So when you deep into the code, you can spot that all of this is created in different ways. Yeah? So from the team point of view, there will be, when we are growing, and there will be point in time when we as a testers should raise the hand to the higher management, to the scrum master, product owners, that the way of working of the automation need to be a little bit changed. Yeah, because if you don't think about it from the beginning and you spot these problems, and that you discover that entire automation is prepared in different ways, so probably you need to make the research, find the best options, and redesign the rest of them. Yeah, so we'll hit the wall in the point that some kind of redesign or maybe revamp or making from the scratch will be needed. Yeah. So let's go to the another level, which is desk level. At the beginning, what I mean when I saying desk level, I mean our desk. Yeah. So first of all, which we face and is a little bit blocker for us to make the automation a little in the bigger scale, is the time pressure. Yeah, when we have the planning, we're thinking about the feature with the compose to the stories. We always thinking about the shortest path to deliver the feature and automation for that. Yeah, we're not thinking about, okay, maybe this feature is very similar which we made in the past, so I need to make the research if something exists, etc. Maybe redesign current automation, and during that I will deliver my feature. Yeah, we think about, okay, the shortest path. I need to make this function. Okay, I need to check this one. Okay, few days. Yeah, but will be nice on the planning sessions to split our activities to two different stories: one for the development and test automation framework, and second for the execution, which increase the visibility of your activities. Yeah, because you can spend 2 days for the development, and in happy path you can spend 1 hour or 1 day to the execution, but also you can spend 2 weeks with the execution, because you try one but it was blocked by the environment issue. You try in next week and you spot the problems is with the microservice, so you raise the defect, but you still on the, but your execution is still blocks, another round, etc. And it showed to the scrum master also how you split the jobs, how you split your work, how many time you spend on the development side and how many time you spend on the execution. Yeah, this is something what I'm introduced in our teams, and this allowed to us to show to the higher management also how big problem for us is the execution part. Yeah, that we don't have a problem with the development, but in our case we was very often blocked by the environment, or other teams. Yeah. Also, the time pressure is another point that we agree to make the semi-automated or manual tests when we have the global decision that the entire product should go only for the automation. Yeah? And always manual is can be done in a few minutes if it's an easy feature. But if we allow to this way of working, it means that our depth of automation is start growing. and it will be very hard to find the time slot to refactor all of these devs and make the automation for them. Yeah. Second things, what I see on our desk level problems is that we are not thinking globally. Yeah. When we are reviewing the scripts, when we're reviewing the code, mostly people would like to create new one instead of create new one function instead of find existing one in the framework. Yeah? Even if someone make the research, yeah, and find very similar function which he needed, but with different API maybe, or maybe a little bit too much checking or something like that. Yeah. Instead of calls to the author of this function and review the code, make some kind of agreement, split the code, etc. Many people decide to create the script, decide the function from the scratch, which will fully fit for his needs. Yeah. But at the end, when you have 10 testers in your team and all of them make the same decisions, it means that you have 10 different functions checking very similar things, but 10 different functions, 10 different codes. So like you see, you start having in one repository 10 different automation frameworks, yeah? Because all of them goes own path during the delivering of the feature. Yeah. And I see the last point, which is no layers, no borders in our automation. So it means that we are mixing everything into each other, like test data, so parameter naming, values generated with the system under test. So with users, password, links, ports, hosts, etc. Or we make the aliases for the same parameter. So when you have 10 different QAs in the product, all of them using different alias for the same parameter in databases. When you start reading the scripts and two different guys interactive with the same data, but the scripts from the code point of view is totally different. Yeah, but mostly they are doing the same stuff on the product. Yeah. Okay, so let's go to first level of how we build the scalable test automation framework. So let's talk about the drivers. Before we jump it, a few things what I mean the drivers here. So probably as you know, we have in the robot framework, we have a Python at the bottom, and on the top of the Python, we have a robot framework, yeah? Which deliver his own libraries like built-in, collection, date and time, operation system, etc. All of these libraries which we use in daily stuff. Yeah? And you can fit the robot framework with the external libraries like robot framework, Selenium, robot framework browsers, etc. Doesn't matter. So for me, and after that, mostly of us use them directly in the suite or resources level. Yeah. For me, drivers is something between the robot framework and our scripts. Yeah. So we talk about the drivers, for example, for the UIs. Yeah. UIs can be covered in our environments, in our test automation framework can be covered by the Playwright or via robot framework browsers or Selenium. Yeah? So we have a Python robot framework. On the top of the robot framework, we have our own Python code where we use directly the robot framework Selenium or robot framework browsers. And on top of the on top of our drivers, we have our test repository where we keep the scripts and resources. The driver should be, but it can be stored as a Python code inside of the repository. But in my opinion, it's a better way to keep them as a separate libraries, separate package, which user can install by the pip command or via requirements file. When I'm building the drivers, I'm trying to use the robot framework drivers. Like when we're talking about the Selenium, when we create the drivers, we can just pick directly the Selenium or use the robot framework Selenium instances. I prefer use the second options because it allowed to me to keep all of the errors messages which I will raise to the scripts in the same common way as the entire robot framework doing that. Yeah. So it's nice to have it when you build the test automation framework in bigger scale to keep all of the errors, messages, and behavior in the same way. So even when I make the cross-check the values on the Python level, yeah, I'm not creating my own print that the value is not equal to each other, yeah. I'm using the built-in, yeah, and should be equal, because the problems were, because the errors which will be so on the logs level will be the same and common to entire framework, yeah. So I'm always, if the driver is existing in robot framework, or maybe package is existing in robot framework like Selenium, robot framework Selenium, I'm using that, yeah, and not directly the Selenium code. And if I make any verification, comparing the values, etc., I trying always using the robot framework libraries, because it allowed to me keep the same feeling to the entire framework, which is very important for me, for the beginners users. Yeah? When you have a new guys in the team, which is a junior, nice to have in the test automation framework all of the messages in the same way. Yeah, that when you're debugging this any problem with this framework, you have always the same message. Yeah. Okay, so when we this is the drivers for me. Yeah. So when we're talking about the drivers for the UI is one of our interfaces. We can have 100 of them. Yeah. SSH, Telnet, few different UIs for the same product. Yeah. REST API, SOAP, some kind of client interfaces, typing. Yeah. Hundreds of them. Yeah. So for all of them, you need to create driver between robot framework and your test repository. Yeah. I would like to present to you the drivers, how I create the scalable driver for UIs. Yeah. So let's briefly talk about how the drivers, how the UI automation is done in our industry. Mostly the QAs, when they start testing the UIs, they know how the POM page object model, page object pattern works. They creating the modules for each view parts, where they share directly the comments and options from the Selenium. So you have a submodules, and at the end you have a method from the Selenium. It's very hard to read such tests because, okay, you know where you are based on the submodules when you read them, but when you start reading the Selenium methods, it's very hard to understand what's going on, because you need to read XPath, map them somehow in your brain that this XPath is related to this parameter, okay, and this is a value. Yeah. So it's very hard to read. Of course, the maintenance, and of course, it works when you, on your viewport you have 5 parameters. But if you have 500, it will be very hard to maintenance also. Yeah. Second things, when the users have the face the problem with the with reading the code, they start implementing the dedicated functions for it to touch dedicated parameters. Yeah? So you can have the input username, get username, etc., etc. It also works. It's improved when you read the code, when you read the scripts, you know what's behind the scripts is going on. But like I mentioned, if you have 500 parameters on one dedicated view part, I don't know how will you handle it. Yeah, and these 500 parameters can be changed every day. Yeah? You will change your scripts and it will be like never-ending story. Yeah. So I'm preparing. I'm a little bit change the POM page object model assumptions. I'm still basing on the submodules, but I'm a little bit extend this by delivering the static methods at the end of the submodules. Yeah. So I'm starting the CRUD. So this is driver UI via CRUD. And at the end of each submodules, I have always choose parameter, little parent, navigate, delete, and update. Yeah, which allow to me keep the common API to this driver. Yeah, this function is always have the same functions, the same API. Yeah, it's based on also on the CRUD, which is very similar as the REST API. Mostly today, our front ends, after our front ends, we have REST API, and we have some kind of backends here. So it also fit to such testing to compare front end with backend. And something what I get it also with this way of working with the UI driver is that it doesn't matter how complicated UI will be, yeah? How many submodules will be there, yeah? I have always the same static methods, of course. Not all of the submodules need to have all of these methods, yeah? Maybe sometimes it will be just navigate and read all params, yeah? But as a user, I just need to know the submodules path, and the method is always the same. The API, like I mentioned, for all of these methods is always the same. So the choose parameter from the green submodules to pink submodules is always the same. Yeah. So the driver works in the same way. How it works? It works that I'm using the API for this driver is everything what you see on the pages. So if you see parameter A, you need to provide to choose parameter name A, yeah, with some kind of the values. All of the mapping that the A is mapping to the dedicated X path is hard coded on the map on the driver. Yeah? Map can be a part of the driver or can be delivered as a separate package. It depends on the product. But all of the magic is behind the driver. Also, that the parameter A is an input text, not the multiply list or toggle, is also hard coded, or it can be under the map, which it can be external packages. It's also on the also is on the driver level. So at the end, when you leave the driver as a users, as a QA, you don't care about how it's mapped, what kind of parameters I would like to touch, etc. I just need to know the submodules, which I need to follow, and I need to know the parameter from the page, which as a user, I can just go to this page and read the parameters and value which I would like to choose. Yeah. So all of this magic is behind the driver. Of course, thousands of the questions here. Okay, parameter A today is the input text, but it should be multiply list. Yeah, all of these things is a separate testing. We can test the model for the UIs. Of course, if something will be changed here, the driver will be faced because I would like to input text, but today is a toggle. I will find these problems. Yeah, then I need to call to the architect and ask if this changes is correct one or not. If correct, change the driver level only, and all of the tests which use this parameter will be fixed. Yeah, even if there will be new parameters added here. Yeah, and you have a scenario where you don't need to touch this parameter. Yeah, you don't need to change your scripts. Yeah, if the submodules, if how read all params work. Read all params was in that way that I'm reading entire page, entire view part which you navigate, and I'm using inner HTML, so I'm reading entire HTML content and parsing them to the Python output. Yeah, I don't create dedicated method. Okay, get text from parameter A, get text from parameter B, because it takes too much time. Yeah, and I have a 500 parameters on the UI. On the dedicated modules, I would like to read all of them because it doesn't matter. Tester A would like to filter out some kind of data, but another tester will will check another data. It doesn't matter from the code. Yeah? I just need to read everything from the page, map them to the object, and return to the scripts. Yeah, and the tester on the scripts level will filter out something what he's looking for, nothing more. Yeah. So briefly, this is how the driver level, which is pre-installed, need to be installed to the test automation framework, or can be keep also in the repository directly in the automation repository. But I prefer the options that will be stored as a separate package. And this way of working allowed to us to avoid any problems with the UIs. Yeah, and of course depends what kind of interfaces you have in your product. All of them need to be designed somehow in scalable format. Yeah. Of course, if there will be another submodule added as another feature, I need to create just another submodule, mostly copy paste the code from existing ones, because all of the operation is very common how we deal with them, and just create the mapping. Yeah, and map that parameter A is mapped to X path. Or if we have any communication with the developers can deliver it as a separate map. Yeah. So we as a tester mostly we don't spend time to play with the Selenium robot Selenium directly. Yeah, we just have the pattern of UI which can be very easily fit by the map, and map is related to parameter. Map is related to parameters which you see on the view parts. Yeah. Okay, so let's discuss next level, which is interfaces. As I mentioned, you can have multiple interfaces to your product, like SSH, Telnet, SOAP, REST API, UI, SNMP, etc., etc. Depends what kind of product do you have it, but mostly the split for the interfaces is related to the hardware, because when you have a hardware, the idea of the hardware is have it to more than one interface. Like let's imagine you have a router in your house, yeah. Probably for your router you have a dedicated UI, but for sure there is also SSH, yeah. And you via SSH you can make the same operation as the UI. So this splitting and then the scaling on the interfaces level can be done in the products where you have a common API to the products, and all of the interfaces follow the same API. Yeah. So you need to have the product where you have a common API, and you have interfaces. Then you have a dedicated feature. You cover the feature via interfaces. Yeah. When the number of interfaces is growing, it's just obvious to be sure that you cover all of the system tests. You need to multiply this scenario for all of the dedicated interfaces. Yeah. So it's very easy to understand that when the number of features is growing, yeah, and we have a multiple interfaces to cover it, yeah, then there will be a lot of work, yeah. I mentioned that it's mostly play with the hardware products, but it can be also with the pure software. Yeah, it's very easy to imagine that you have a product, and you have only one today. We have only one interface, which is UI. Yeah? But behind the UI, you have a REST. Yeah, and your company faces the client who will ask for the REST and pay for the REST. Yeah, to get the access to REST API. And it's just obvious that company will deliver REST API to the customers, so we will have at least two interfaces, UI and REST API. So it can be very easily extended. Yeah, it depends mostly on the money. Yeah, and our customers. Yeah, but the hardware is more affected of that, because the hardwares are pretty almost have more than one interfaces, and they have common API. So you have a UI, you have a REST point, you have a netconf, SNMP, SSH, and dedicated CLI, and at the end, all of these interfaces cover the same features. Yeah? And it depends of your client. Different clients use different interfaces. Yeah. So you need to test all of them to be sure the feature can be handled by dedicated interfaces. Yeah? So based on this slide, you see there will be a lot of work, and you need a lot of hands to cover all of this. And if you spot any problems, maintenance, any refactor of the interfaces will be so painful, yeah, for the entire team. So it can be done in that way. Yeah, it's just obvious that when you have a different interfaces, you need to provide. You need to think about the common interfaces driver. Yeah, you can call these libraries depends of your product, etc. But at least you have a one common layer with adapters, where you have an interface, then you have an adapter. When you have an interface, then you have an interface driver. If you would like to test something dedicated to the driver, like I mentioned via when I talking about the UIs, then of course you need to have some kind of adapter, because the operation need to be translated. And at the end you have another layer, which is interfaces layer, which result of this library will be deliver the common API to the scripts. Yeah. This allow to us to increase the coverage of our automation, and also reduce the number of work. Yeah. So because you don't need to be focus it on the feature and split them to the dedicated interfaces, you're just focusing only on the features, and what kind of interfaces you are using is just one of the parameters of this common interfaces driver. Yeah, so it's very easy to extend and increasing the automation here. Yeah, if you're thinking about it's very hard to do that, I can say it yes, but I have an experience with the driver, which contain just give me think. We had CLI, we have REST, we have netconf, and we implement the UI. Yeah, so for the different interfaces, like you here, was zipped command under common interfaces driver with different adapters. And me as a tester, I just need to think about how to make the CRUD operation and what I would and what kind of scenario I would like to test. And I just changing the interfaces naming on this common interfaces driver. And after that, different drivers was used. Yeah. So I just prepare one script, which I rerun 4 times to cover all of the integration testing. Yeah. Okay. So let's go forward to next level, which is drivers. How to support multiple drivers in our repository. So like you see on the screen, the orange code mostly is a Python. Yeah. Like let's briefly remind you: Python, robot framework, drivers, our drivers, and interfaces if we need it. Yeah. Then repository. Yeah. So how to deal with all of the drivers in our repository, that can be how to handle them. Yeah. And to not make a big big mess in our repository with all of the drivers. Yeah. So first of all, the red color is as our test repository. So I'm presenting the very basic layout, so scripts, libraries, resources, system under test, and tools. So on the resources level, I'm delivering something what I call the functional keywords, FK. All of the FK need to follow the interfaces. So if I have a UI interfaces, then I have a FK UI. If I have a CLI, I have a FK CLI, FK REST. So I make very similar layout, which mostly I'm mirroring my layouts from the drivers levels to the repository, because I would like to avoid situation that the testers need to go to 2,000 different web pages to read the documentation of the different drivers. Yeah. So I replace the method from the drivers on FK level, but of course with small improvements. Yeah, like on interfaces level, probably have a, when you're talking about the UI, I have an open browsers, yeah, keywords, and another login to the page. Yeah, then I'm zipping them together on FK level to create to build smaller blocks. Yeah, like open and login. Yeah, to the browsers. Yeah, or like open browsers and login to UI. Yeah. If we have a SSH or some kind of REST, it's follow the same rules. Yeah, and mostly I'm following the CRUD comments. Yeah. So the first layer which QAs can meet in test repository, I'm call them functional keywords. Yeah, and this is a mirroring of my drivers. Yeah, which allow to introduce the automation to the QAs without any dedicated robot framework documentation. Of course, all of these interfaces follow the robot framework standards, and we have a UIs when user can browse the driver content. Yeah, but mostly the method is so only when you combine the methods, it makes some kind of scenario. Yeah, so you can just easily zip few methods from the driver and reflect them on the functionality keywords. Yeah, based on the UI, like open browser and login. Another one, navigate to somewhere and read all params. Or even better, navigate somewhere and choose parameter to filter out some kind of data. Yeah. So you can zip keywords, few keywords to a little bit bigger scenario. Yeah. After that, I'm introduced generic keywords, which is a level up of the functional keywords. And the rules of the generic keywords inside of repository is that the generic keywords can use only functional keywords. So generic keywords can't use directly the drivers level. Yeah. So I'm building like a pyramid. Yeah. Step by step. Python, robot framework, drivers, repository, functional keywords, generic keywords, and we're going to the roof. Yeah. So generic keywords use only functional keywords. Functional keywords use only the drivers. So when we're changing something on the drivers level, like API, naming of keywords, etc., I don't have a domino effects, yeah, because I need to change only on one layer. And this is a problem with the robot framework itself, yeah. Like when you have a spaghetti code with imports, which I will show to you later on how to resolve them, and you make the refactor and move keywords to different places, rename them, etc., you'll start observing the domino effect that you start losing your passage on your regression because missing keywords, because the import is broken, etc., etc. These levels give to us the protection of any refactoring is missing. Yeah? So generic keywords is very similar idea of the functional keywords, but a little bit more complex. Yeah, because if the functional keywords can zip together, zip one functional keyword zip 2 methods from the driver, so it means the generic keywords at least zip 4 methods from the drivers. Yeah, because use two different and use 2 keywords from the functional keywords. Yeah, so it's like a pyramid which is growing, and you start using one keywords which do a multiply operation. Yeah, like on the generic keywords, you can have it like navigate to page, navigate to modules, choose parameter, then we have a filter out the data, read all params, and verify. Yeah. So you have the one method which navigates you from the main pages to sub pages. You choose some kind of parameters, click filter out, and we are reading the data and verify the data which we see as the results. Yeah, where we use only one keyword. Yeah, from the automation point of view. Then GK keywords can be used on the scripts level. Yeah. So we have the scripts. After that, we have a GK, FK, and interface if we have it, and driver. Yeah, this is a pyramid of our framework. And this level, like FK and GK level, is next level how to be scaling drive and test automation framework. Yeah, and at the end, as a test automation guys, you at the end mostly spend the time building your scripts, because the generic keywords, FK keywords, are generated in common way of working, fully documented, and they share the same code on the Python level. So they are very easily to investigate it, because like I mentioned, all of the levels follow the interfaces. So you have a FK UI, GK UI. So if you would like to play with the UI on your script, you know where to find the answer, what kind of operation we can support it today. So if you spot there something is missing, okay, I need to go to the driver level and implement something on my end. Yeah, but the split by the FK GK, and they are following also for the interfaces. It's very easy to make this research, which I'm pointing at the beginning of the presentation, that is a problem why the framework is not scalable, because we are not browsing the repository and content of repository. And when we find something, we at the end decided to make it from scratch. In this way, there is no option to do that, yeah, because everything is fully visible by the other guys. And if you make redundancy of this very similar keywords, it can be very easily refactored, yeah. And of course, on the future level, maybe we need to play with a few different interfaces, like do something via UI, check on the databases, etc., etc. Which is fully okay to combine such things operation on GK levels. Yeah, GK's level you can combine different keywords also. Yeah, from the same level. Yeah. At the end, I will show you the code with the UI driver, and I will explain you how to resolve the problem with the imports on Robot Framework. Okay? Because it's very hard to understand how it's work and find the way of working to avoid any problems with refactoring of the codes. Yeah. So like you see in these cases, you're mostly focusing on the feature, implementing the features. If you spot if something is missing, you implement it in as a logical operation, like a few combination in one row. You need to implement new GK. If you spot that the entire functionality is missing, you just go to the drivers and to the separate repository, implement the drivers, and implement the functional keywords for these missing pieces and GK. Then you reuse on the scripts level. But the main point here is that it's very easy to find what you are looking for. Yeah? You can be new guy in the organization, and you get the new feature. You know that you need to play with the REST and databases. It can be very easy to find what kind of a method we have it. Read the documentation on GK keywords, on FK keywords, which is prepared in the robot framework way of working. And you can very easily browse the repository and find the content which you are looking for and make the decision. Okay, there is nothing what I'm looking, so I need to implement something. Then you can go to your colleagues from your team and ask, okay, guys, looks like these elements, these pieces of this UI is missing. I'm correct? Yes. Go to the driver. Yeah. Okay. Current slide showed to us how to support and build the framework for the one dedicated product. Yeah, because there is no any place for the product. Because if you would like to play with different products, for sure there will be deviation between them. Yeah. Okay, they can share the same drivers, the same FKGK levels, but for sure there will be difference between the functionality and between the steps. Maybe the feature will be the same for both of them, but the order how they maybe call something will be different. Yeah, and for sure they will have a own. For sure they need to have their own space to at least naming something. Yeah, because the same things can be named in different ways in different products. Yeah, because the customers is different. Yeah. Let's talk about how to support multiple products here. Yeah, so we have the same layout, the same presentation, but we need to make difference in the scripts level. Yeah, so we need to deliver placeholder also on the resources place. Yeah, because if you have a multiply products on the scripts level, they need to have their own keywords also. Yeah, because they will utilize the GKFK in a little bit in different way. Yeah, so we need to create the products keywords on top of the generic keywords, and this is like a sandbox for this dedicated product where they can make everything what they need and different way of workings even, because the product can be tested in different ways, but there's a placeholder for them. Yeah, where we don't touch at all how they name it, how this keywords looks like, etc. This is a safe spot for the products, because from the testing point of view, they need to have their own sandbox where they can do everything what they need to cover their needs. Yeah, and for sure their needs is not the common, it's not the same needs like the other products. Yeah, and we can easily make these products more on this level. Yeah, but all of them use GKFK level. Yeah, like on the screens. Like I mentioned, I had a repository where we had the 9 different products. Yeah, they have all 9 different folders, and the one global rules here is that they need to use GK keywords. Yeah, because this is the main rules for the products. Yeah, because if we allow them to use drivers levels on the products folder, yeah, it's then the result of this will be that for inside of the products, you will start have different test automation framework, because they will sit only inside of the his product on his product folder, and contribute only inside of this folder, and making content only here. They will not go outside to make some kind of GKFK level. But when we have the rules that the product, if they deliver a new function or and they need to make the code, they need to create the GKFK maybe driver level, then they always going outside of the product. Then that test automation framework is growing. The next product maybe have the same feature after a few months, and the content how to test it is already there. So this is very important to remember about these levels, and the levels need to be executed one by one. You can't skip from the product directly to the drivers. Yeah, you always products need to use GK, FK, FK drivers. Yeah, then you have based on this policy, you have as an owner of such test automation framework, you are almost pretty sure that when new things coming on the table, the guys, when the guys working on that, they deliver something new pieces to the framework. Yeah, and after that someone can reuse them. Yeah, so this is how it can be split on the products levels. And at the end, this is an organization level, yeah, where we have a full scalable test automation framework on each level. Products can use one or multiple interfaces, it doesn't matter. But if, like, let's imagine that the product one not use the CLI, but after a few months, few years, customers decide, okay, we would like to have a CLI interface number 2 from this slide. All of the knowledge how to test operation are there. Yeah, so they just need to sit and reuse it existing pieces, not making the automation from scratch. Yeah. Also, like I mentioned, I'm done this test automation framework in few different companies based on the pure software, which is banking, also which is also on the hardware-centric products. So it can be done in multiple ways. But at the beginning, always you need to start thinking how to do that. Yeah, and you need to sit to each other and thinking about how to make this test automation framework, not just the scripting. Yeah, because the scripting of test is working only in small scale when we're talking about 2-3 person in one team. Yeah, when the team grows and there is more than 5, 7, 8, 10 people, it will be a problem. Yeah. In this organization, when you base on this chart, based on this slide, you can see very easily that the people from product N+1 can be very easily shifted to product 1, because they share the knowledge of the drivers, way of working, how to document it, how we run the scripts. CI/CD is also the same. Entire automation is the same. So you can have multiple products and multiply users of this test automation framework. And if there is any needs, or even the product is canceled, you can easily try to find the places for QAs to in other teams. Yeah, because they don't need to learn everything from the scratch. Yeah, because everything is mostly very common. Yeah. So at the end of this slide deck, I would like to say to you a few words that I ask you to remember. The first of them is treat interfaces as microservice, because it can grow every day. Yeah, if there will be any customer who pay more, there can be very easily extended. Yeah, it's just question how much. Second things, treat the test automation framework as a product. Reserve time to implement it. Reserve time to maintenance. Reserve time to make the research. It's not just a scripting. Yeah, you as a QAs should be involved to build something more, not just the scripting and make the regression green, because it's not the goal. Yeah, it's the goal from the organization point of view. But at the end, if you treat test results as a child of test automation framework, you will be as a test automation developer, and the test will be just a result, like a application working. Yeah. Okay. Now I would like to show you the code and a real example how I am implementing this in my projects. Yeah. So I would like to share with you the PyCharm with two different repositories. First of this repository is a repository as a Python code to support UI testing, which we call demo QA. Demo QA is a very basic page to test some kind of iteration on testing different elements on the pages. So you can go to elements, text box, you can play with different data here, checkbox, etc., etc. So different combination of using Selenium or Playwright, doesn't matter. All of this driver is implemented in scalable format, which I presented during the presentation. Let's jump briefly to the code. Like I mentioned, all of these methods based on the CRUD comments. So we have a navigate page, choose parameters, read all params. Sometimes I'm also delivering the read and verify all parameters because mostly when we are retrieving something from the pages, at the end we would like to verify some kind of the fields. Yeah, so I'm also delivering code here to avoid any should be equal on the robot framework level, because it doesn't matter. When I mentioned during the presentation, it never doesn't matter if I'm playing on the Python level. I'm also, when I'm doing some kind of basic operation, I try to use the same methods which was delivered by robot framework. Like in these cases, like you see, to checking the values, I'm using built-in should be equal, because it's nice to have the entire automation, entire framework in the same taste. Yeah. So I'm not creating my own Python verification with my own print. Yeah. Because when I have the new guy in the team who know the robot framework, it's nice to have it that he will see the same error message. Yeah. So it allows to all of the QAs better understanding what's going on inside of the code and make the debugs. Yeah. So like I mentioned, all of these things is about the CRUD comment or CRUD way of working. The same the text box. Yeah. So you have a navigate, choose parameter, read all params, and and verify all parameters. Of course, all of the mappings is done by the hard-coded map inside of data. Of course, the map can be hard-coded. Like in this case, can be stored as a separate libraries, also hard-coded, or delivered from the developers as a map. It depends what kind of the impact we have inside of our product and what we can achieve. Yeah. Okay. So based on the driver, let's take a look on the elements checkbox. Based on this, you can choose parameters, put here to choose any type of folder from here. Of course, there need always this CRUD way of working on the UI need to have some kind of assumptions. In this case, in the checkbox, when you go to the checkbox, I'm always expound all of the elements. Yeah, and after that, I'm choosing something. Yeah. Okay. So this is a driver which I would like to reuse on framework level. So let's jump to the testing repository. So it's a very basic repository: backbones, libraries, resources, scripts, suite, tools. I suppose most of the projects have the same or very similar structure. Libraries to placeholder to create the Python code here. Resources, this is what we would like to discuss. Scripts, SAT, system under test, place to keep the variables related to tested environment. Tools, placeholder to create some kind of utilities around the automation or product. Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about the resources. Yeah. So like I presented on my during my presentation, I mentioned that the functional keywords is like a first level of the framework inside of testing repository. Yeah. So let's take a look how it looks. When I'm creating these levels, we need to have some kind of the rules. Yeah. So first rules regarding this framework and to build the scalable automation framework is that you need to have the place where you import some kind of libraries. Yeah? Because if you allow to testers to import anything what they need during the creation of the resources, at the end you will have the resources folder with thousands of different files, and you have spaghetti imports inside of this folder. And when you would like to refactor something, move keyword to another resources, etc., etc., it will be very hard to understand. Yeah. So my first rules, which I creating when I'm creating the robot framework repository, is creating the handlers. This is my idea how I avoid the spaghetti code and problems with all of the imports inside of the robot framework. Like probably you know, when you're importing something, any type of resources in robot framework, you import like with the stars in the Python, you import everything what this resources imported also inside of these resources. Yeah, so you have access to all of different libraries. Yeah, so I'm creating inside of functional keywords. In this folder, I'm creating like the entrance to import all of the Python stuff which we need during the automation. Yeah. So this is a libs and variables handler where I'm importing all of the required libraries, and when I'm delivering new, because the new project is going to the automation repository, or the project is growing, so we have a new UI, new interface, etc. I'm creating the Python code as a library. And at the end, I'm importing this library here. Yeah, so this is like entrance to entire framework. Yeah, so for starting from the bottom, we have a Python. After that, you have a robot framework, something like robot framework Selenium. On top of the robot framework Selenium, you have your own driver. Then we are jumping to the repository and test automation repository. First level is a functional keywords which contain resources, which is named libs and variables handler, where I'm importing all of these Python codes. Yeah. And this file is like a entrance to entire framework. Yeah? After that, I start preparing my FK resources. Like I mentioned, I'm always following the driver's name. So when I'm creating the demo QA driver, I also create the FK demo QA. It's allowed to me to avoid situation that the libraries have different naming and the resources have different naming, and I have a new guy in the team and explain how it works is very important. In these cases, all of the things have the same name, and you can just follow the naming, and it's very easy to jump deep to the code. Yeah. And like I mentioned, FK is a first basic resources where I implemented the same methods from the driver. Sometimes I'm creating a little bit bigger, so I zip two methods from the driver to a little bit bigger keywords. Like we have a keywords to open browsers, and we have navigate to page. Yeah? So I zip two keywords inside of one and create, of course, one keyword. Yeah? Like also checkbox, navigate to page. We always would like to navigate from the main page because we don't know where it was before the execution of this keyword. After that, navigate to elements and navigate to checkbox. So this small keywords zipping three unique methods from the different subclass from the driver. Yeah, and of course you can jump to. Sometimes it doesn't matter, and it's not fit to create like zipping, like choose parameters. I would like to just choose the parameters and maybe I don't want to verify them, so I'm not creating the choose parameter and reach and verify all parameters. But yeah, so this is a placeholder. When we have a new guy in the team and he have a new feature or task, okay, guy, you need to do something on the QA website. Sorry, demo QA website. So there is a resources. Everything what you need is here. Read the documentation and prepare the code. Yeah. Of course, when we take a look again on the functional keywords, yeah, we have this entrance, which is libs and variables handler. But we also need to have the exit from this. And the exit is FK handler, where I'm importing all of the existing FK resources inside of this folder in one resources. Yeah. So this is exit from this layer. So when I would like go to another layer, which is generic keywords, and this generic keyword should base on the FK, not on the driver, directly just on the FK. We have the same way of working. We have the GK demo QA driver, and sorry, demo QA, where I just need to import the FK handler. Because when I'm importing FK handler, it means I'm importing the handler which contains everything what was created on FK level plus entire Python code. Yeah. So I'm importing one file to get all of these methods, resources, which was delivered by the QA to the framework. Of course, there is another rules. to avoid the duplication of the keywords of the naming, because when you importing entire automation resources, you will for sure will face the problem that the two different resources contain the same keywords with the same name. Yeah? So I'm always using the prefix. This is next rules in frameworks which I created. The prefixes need to be created, yeah, need to be added, because when I would like to refactor the keyword name and there is a double usage, double resources which contain the same keywords, and I don't have it there, and I don't see the prefix. So it means I need to go to these resources, take a look on the what kind of resources was imported here, and we are starting having the spaghetti code. Yeah? So the prefixes, in my opinion, is a mandatory, like we have in the Python codes. We are using the class that something. Yeah. So I suppose the prefixes should be mandatory at all in robot framework. Yeah. Okay. So the handlers, they are the exit from the dedicated level. We have a FK handler, and of course we follow the same rules on GK handler. So on GK handler, of course, I'm importing everything what I created on GK folder. So when I go to the product, which is not mandatory level, it depends if you have a multiple projects and we would like to share the automation. On the product keywords handler, I need to just import, when I'm creating the PK and keywords, I just need to import GK handler. Importing one file, I have access to all of the stuff which was made by the automation guys. Yeah. Okay, and of course we have the PK handler when I'm testing the dedicated product. Let's assume it's a product one, and I'm creating new suite. I just need to import the PK handler, and I have access to all of the methods which I created inside of my product, plus everything in this framework, plus to the drivers, etc., etc. There is no any problems with the imports, missing keywords, resources was moved somewhere, etc., etc. Yeah, of course, if you decided that this keyword should be used in GK level, yeah, you just remove from there. You can add here, and you just need to find all of this usage and just redesign it. Okay, FK, and you just change the name to GK, etc., etc. Yeah? So it's very easy to find the root cause of the changes if something is missing. Yeah? And of course, this way of working allows you to make any pre-commit for the automation, Wrobocon checks, etc., etc. Because when you import one script from and the script's importing GK handler, it's importing everything. If something is missing, you already know. Yeah? Okay. And so next things is a stud file, system under test, where the different products, different QAs can store the data related to the environment. Like the product one can use the UI demo QA on this address. Yeah? But it's very easy to imagine that we have a second product which have the same backbones of the UI, but with different data. Yeah. Like let's assume the choose parameters here is not the play Windows folder, but to play with the Linux folder. So we can have the same pages, but play with different test data. And then came inside of the company, they will be stored as two separated links, yeah? Separate instances. So the product two will have different UI address here. Project one have different. They can use the same GK and FK level for this UI, but they will use different instances and play with different test data. Yeah? Okay, so something what I would like to left after this presentation. These backbones which I created, yeah, and the way of working with the robot framework on the resources level, yeah, you create the functional keyword, generic keywords, product keywords, and inside of these folders you are creating 4 different handlers, yeah, lib handlers, FK handlers, GK handlers, and product keywords handlers, yeah. And at the end of the on the scripts level on the product, you are just importing the PK handler from dedicated products, and you have the access to entire framework, yeah. This way of working allowed to me to create the automation where we share 9 different products with 15 plus people, yeah. And we are this 9 different products. They was involved in one like streaming application one by one, so we will share the same tools, etc. During SIT. So I don't need to create new or very similar things to cover additional application which is behind me or before me. Yeah, I'm just reusing the existing stuff from this existing team. Yeah. Yeah, so this is my way of working. While I'm creating new automation around the when I'm creating new automation framework and I'm choose the robot framework, this is my backbones how I created this frameworks. Yeah, and it allowed to me avoid any problems with the missing keywords, importing spaghetti code, missing variables, etc. etc. Yeah. Of course, all of these levels I add the README. So after the presentation, you can check it. The READMEs I put here, I suppose, all of them mandatory things which you need to know. Of course, also the entire code is stored in the GitHub based on when you find me based on my nickname on the GitHub. You have access to both robot framework repository. One of them is a demo QA driver based on the testing UI based on the via CRUD to cover these pages. And second one is a Scalable TAF automation framework where I put entire backbones with the README files, etc. Okay, thank you very much for watching me so long. I know that it was a very tough presentation, and I'm very glad that I can share my knowledge how to build scalable automation framework, and I cross finger that you will reuse it in your products. Yeah. If you have any question after the presentation, you can find me on the LinkedIn or via email. Yeah. Thank you very much. See you.